Hi everyone, we are back on the KBC vlog today, and we are back in the Old Testament at Genesis, and I'm going to be reading from the book Reading Between the Lines, and then I'll just add a final thought from myself after reading through the material today. So today's title, we're on day 15 and it's Forbidden Fruit. So just the phrase forbidden fruit makes our mouths water, and that tells you everything you need to know about the kind of humanity we have inherited. The Lord had said, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden." This is from Genesis 2 verse 16. But there is one exception, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's from Genesis 2:17. There weren't any maps with out of bounds areas marked in red. There were no commandments nailed up anywhere. No lengthy presentations from human resources, and no health and safety videos to watch. Just one tree off limits. So it's very common to reimagine the God of the garden as a petty lawmaker, as though God is like Oscar Wilde's selfish giant, building a wall around his garden paradise. But no, the atmosphere of the garden was not law, but freedom, fruitfulness, and fellowship. You might ask, why even have one boundary? Well, imagine if there was nothing forbidden at all. There would be no opportunity for humanity to express either trust or mistrust from the Lord. With the tree, there is such an opportunity, but only one. Here was their one chance to say to God and the world, "We trust you," but we all know what happened. We know it even if we've never read the Bible before, because they did what we always do. They mistrusted God and grasped at life on their own terms. So the serpent asks Eve, he says, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" And that's Genesis 3:1. Notice the seeds of mistrust being sown here by the enemy. Is God really so cheap? Can you believe in such a cosmic killjoy? Of course it's not true, and Eve puts him right. "We may eat the fruit from the trees in the garden," she says, "but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden." Genesis 3 verses 2 to 3. Actually, they could eat from any tree except one. Eve's correction is right as far as it goes. The trouble is Eve goes further. "And you must not touch it or you will die," she says in Genesis 3:3. So actually God had said nothing about touching the fruit. It might have been a good idea to pluck it and throw it in the river. Yet here is the very first misstep in the garden. It's not rule breaking, but rule making. So mistrust leads Adam and Eve to recast God in their imaginations. Instead of the bountiful God of grace, they conceive of him as the master in Oliver Twist's workhouse, one incredulous that we should want more. The truth was that God had given this couple the most rule-free existence enjoyed in human history. It was they who had multiplied the regulations and then laid the blame at the Lord's feet. Almost immediately, this multiplying of laws took hold of their souls, and soon they start to play the blame game. They tear each other apart before the Lord. And this is verses 12 and 13. From mistrust, we descend into hiding, shame, fear, self-justifying, and blame shifting. All because they would not trust God. So, how do we consider God? Do we think of him as a fountain of life, or as a miser doling out blessings with a teaspoon? Our whole lives depend on our answer to that very question. If we doubt God, we will grasp, grumble, and groan. If we trust him, even when he forbids this or that, we will live a free with faith, love, and hope. So which is it? At the cross, Jesus showed us the true nature of God. He went to his tree, not to take for himself, but to give of himself. While Adam and Eve gained death from their tree, Jesus brought life for the world. While their definitive act was taking, Jesus' great work was giving. Jesus reveals the God we can trust. Perhaps right now we feel that God is holding out on us. Today we know this, and I'll read this verse from Romans 8:32. He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for all of us, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Amazing. So, yeah, a final kind of thought from me reading through this. So what Eve did there is she made up her own version of what God had said. So she has either twisted what he said, which means she either didn't listen, or she chose to make up extra rules out of her own mind. Okay. So the devil, our enemy, is always looking for holes and gaps to slither into our lives. And people play into his hands when they do not know or decide to misinterpret the word of God. The word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword and is our only offensive weapon against the darkness. So we should spend time in it and learn it, lest we end up like Eve, deceived by the enemy. So, thanks very much, everyone, and I will catch you all on the next vlog. God bless.